people want to be really good at something. They want to be in charge of their own destiny, and they want to be doing something that's worthwhile. All motivation and culture really surrounds those three things. So, from a culture perspective, I think the biggest thing as the leader of it, the advice I would give you is
You're listening to Titans of the Trades. I'm your host, Ryan Englin, author of Hire Better People Faster and creator of the CoreFit hiring system, a proven process to help growing companies attract and retain only the best. I'm on a mission to revolutionize the perception of the trades and elevate it to new heights. After growing up in a blue-collar family, my passion for making the trades cool again runs deep. If you're a titan in the industry and want to be on my show, stick around until the end and I'll reveal how you can be my next guest. This is Ryan Englin. I am your host. Today's guest was so much fun to talk to because not only is he in marketing, not only has he scaled his business, in a way that most people only dream of, but he also fully subscribes to the idea that recruiting is marketing. And if you followed me for any time, you know that that's exactly what it is. We don't treat it that way. I don't know why, but we're going to dig into some of the things that we've learned over here at Core Matters. He's going to dig into some of the things that they've learned over at Abstrakt about how to do outbound, how it correlates to the stuff we do with recruiting. So whether you are looking to hire more people for your business or bring in more business and start doing more lead gen, outbound, it's just a great conversation today. I want to introduce to today's show, Eric Watkins, the president of Abstrakt Marketing. Eric, welcome to the show.
happy to be here.
And I am so looking forward to today's conversation. A lot of synergies in what you're doing to serve the same companies that we serve over at Core Matters, but also the people that are listening to this show right now. And I know that they are going to get a wealth of information from you. So I would love to jump in, share a little bit about who you are. And then here's the first thing I want to know. You are now the president of Abstrakt Marketing. But just not that long ago, you were an intern at Abstrakt Marketing. Like, what was that point where you realized that, you know what, I'm going to run this thing someday? And you set out. I want to hear a little bit of that story, but introduce yourself to our listeners first, and then let's jump into that.
Sure. Yeah. So I'm Eric Watkins. I'm the president of Abstrakt Marketing Group. We're a sales development company based out of St. Louis, largest marketing company in the state of Missouri and one of the biggest nationwide. And I've been lucky enough I started here in 2013 when we were around 3 million in revenue as a unpaid intern, and been a part of the journey, played about every different role on my way to president, and we'll be around 75 million in annual revenue by the end of this year. And I would say, to answer your question, when did I think I was running the company? I think when they told me. I think if I did one thing right along the journey, I really just tried to be the best at the current role I was doing. Mm-hmm. And what I've found is that if you master what's right in front of your face and don't focus on the shiny object in the future, the opportunity will create itself.
That's great. I know a lot of people in the trades started their business because they were in the trades. They were a great plumber and they're like, I can go do this. Or maybe they were out on their luck and they just lost their job. They got laid off. They didn't see eye to eye with their boss. And they're like, you know what? I'm just going to go get a truck and I'm going to start selling my own. And they wake up 10 years later and go, I got 15 trucks on the road and apparently I'm a business owner now, but I still feel like a plumber at heart. What would you say to those type of people who want to make that shift from, I've been in the trades for a long time. I'm a tradesman at heart. I want to be in the field. But it's time that I need to learn some new things and be a business owner and go on that path to where they no longer have plumber or master plumber on their business card, but it actually says president or owner. What would you tell them for that thing you were just talking about? Don't focus on the shiny, but focus on what's right in front of you.
Yeah, I would say first off, you mentioned this earlier, we have about 1,750 partners across all our services, and I would say roughly 50% are in the trades. So I talk to a lot of these business owners every single day. And I would say 95% of the time, I'm talking to people who are in the same exact situation, running 10, 20, 50, $100 million businesses. And they started as the plumber or the electrician or the technician. So you're
Yeah.
not alone. First off, if you have that thought, and you should pursue it. Second thing is take it one day at a time, right? And read books. Everybody read books, listen to podcasts. Everything you're struggling with in a business, someone has written a book about or
Mm.
experienced it themselves. And yes, the best type of learning is experience and failure and growing from that. But if someone's already made that mistake, that's always been my philosophy. Why don't I go learn from the mistakes that they've made? So if I do make them, I can make them a little bit better and end up on the better end of things.
I love that. I share that philosophy with you. Someone told me one time a smart individual learns from their own mistakes, a wise individual learns from the mistakes of others. Like,
That's a great quote.
why go figure this out on your own when someone else has already spent the years or a lifetime figuring it out and they can get it into a book? Uh, I love that. What are some of your favorite books? What are some of the books that come to top of mind for you? Like, these are actually critical to anybody wanting to be a success in business.
Sure. I would say Five Levels of Leadership by John C. Maxwell.
Yeah.
It it hit me very hard because it was the first book I read when I became a leader myself. And I
Yeah.
think the struggle I had is a lot of us want to get into management because we want to help others. So we take a lot of pride in saying, I taught Ryan this and now Ryan went and did this. And the true definition of a leader is how can Ryan do that without you even having to teach him that and the environment that you create.
Mm,
So that's personally one of my favorites. And then the hard thing about hard things,
mm,
which I what I liked about that one is the just the realness of it. You know, you go into a startup software company and how he really scaled the business, and he's very real about that. And that's Stephen Horwitz, I believe.
yeah.
I'm on the spot. I hope I don't get that wrong. And but I just really love it wasn't that philosophical leadership jargon. It was straight to the facts. Here's the real. And then my last one would be Thinking Backwards. And it's about Amazon and how they built and scaled that business really by the principles that founded the company and how they continue to scale it. Those would be my short three.
I love it. As you were talking about the hard thing about hard things is E-Myth came to mind. I don't know if you've read E-Myth or not, Michael Gerber. Uh, he talks about the importance of process. And I remember when I left corporate America, I was like, oh, these processes are I don't need them. I'm going to start my own business. I don't need processes. And I was like anti-process, anti-checklist, anti-systems for years. And it wasn't until there was this moment where I was like, you know what? If I had a checklist, this would make my life so much better.
So good.
And then I read E-Myth. Like 4 years into my entrepreneurial journey, I read E-Myth, and that book changed my life. I mean, it just changed my life in the way to think about creating the systems and the processes in business, and it's what makes businesses grow. And what we teach now is those processes aren't for you; they're for everybody on your team that wants to know how to do it your way. Uh, those are some great books. I love Five Levels of Leadership. So many people get stuck right at the beginning,
Yeah.
level one, a positional leader, right? They get stuck there.
Yeah.
And they're like, how do I get people to actually elevate me to the next level? Because that's the one thing I loved about what Maxwell taught in there is like, you don't get to pick. Your
Right.
people pick for you. So
Exactly.
fantastic book. I love that's your number one. I've never heard of Working Backwards. That's one I'm going to have to check out. So thank you for sharing that. Uh,
It
now,
might be now that I'm saying it out loud, it might be thinking back. No, I think it's working backwards. Yeah. But it's just about
Working backwards.
Amazon
Yeah, I
and
just looked it up.
how yeah, and how just how analytical Jeff Bezos was.
Mm,
And he was relentless about the principles that Amazon was going to follow. And so when they hired leaders, that's one of the big struggles we've had in our business. You know, when you go from 3 million to 75 million, and I've been a part of the journey sort of every step of the way, is it's really easy to have a good culture. Not easy, but a lot easier to have a good culture at 5 million and 10 million and 15. And then when you start getting into where leaders are managing leaders of leaders, everything goes out the window. Everybody's got their own
Mhm.
little style. They came up under different people in the company. And so really getting aligned on the principles that you want your leadership to be is super important.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, I know that your passion is outbound, and
Correct.
that is very much a jargon term for a lot of people, encompasses a whole lot of things. And in the B2B space, people probably hear outbound or cold calling or cold emails, and they either go, "Yes, it's amazing," or they just like shudder and be like,
It's the worst
"Oh."
thing ever. Yeah,
It's like I don't think there's an in between. I don't
for
think there's an in
sure.
between. But tell us a little bit. What is outbound? Why is it so important to B2B companies? And why do we feel the way we feel about it? Why is it so
Sure.
polarizing?
Yeah, that's a big question. You have about 2 hours? No, I'll keep it short. I think first off, the easiest way to define outbound is to look at the 3 ways to grow your business. Primarily outbound, inbound, and then organically. Everybody typically gets their start growing by referrals, organic word of mouth. And they get to a point where that just becomes not enough or it's not predictable enough and they can't scale their business. So then a lot of individuals typically gravitate towards inbound, whatever type of advertisement, maybe pay per click, whatever it may be. And the benefit of that is you're getting people that are closer to a referral. So it's an easier sale. They have an active need.
Mhm.
But ultimately, any business to mature to its full growth and potential needs an outbound approach where you're talking to the people that aren't coming to you. So I define outbound as calling, email, LinkedIn, direct mail, any channel where you're going out directly to message and have conversations in the market. And I think why people don't traditionally like outbound is because they're not doing it the right way.
Mm,
How I look at outbound, the easiest way to think about it is let's take a uh, HVAC contractor. Let's say they're working in St. Louis, which is where we're located. And let's say there's 2,000 companies that would be a great fit for their services. I know statistically about 10 to 15% of the market every year is going to make a decision on their HVAC services. They're going to switch from their current provider, they're going to move from in house to outsource, whatever it may be. So that is every year, let's call it 200 to 300 people who are going to make a buying decision. Everybody's marketing is focused on that 200 to 300 people. Everybody wants the low hanging fruit who's at the finish line. But those 200 to 300 people weren't even thinking about it a year before this, right?
mhm.
And that's where outbound comes in. You go build relationships proactively with these businesses in your market over and over and over and over. Then when it comes time to make a buying decision, they don't go to Google or they don't ask their friend for a referral or search in ChatGPT. They come to you because you've already built that relationship. And that's how you really take outbound and build relationships and turn it more into an inbound process. And I think what people do is they blast the market, they make a bunch of calls, they send a bunch of emails, they maybe even get some good results, and then it just gets worse and worse and worse over time because you're not building and having conversations for the long haul.
Got it. It's like, when's the best time to plant a tree? Like,
Yeah.
it's something that's gonna take a
Yesterday.
long
Yeah,
time, and you can't start it quickly. It's interesting, as you're talking about that, I'm thinking about the world that we're in, which is recruiting. Everybody needs an estimator, everybody needs a project manager, everybody needs these real highly skilled people in their business, and, there's only a small percentage of them that are actually looking to switch jobs in the next year. And
for sure.
everybody is after that same group. And it's incredibly expensive to rise to the top, not just from an advertising perspective, but also you got to pay a lot more if you
Right.
want to get people to notice you. And then there's that group that maybe they're interested and but they might not move for 3 years. But
Right.
if you can create, we call it a bench, if you can create a bench of candidates and just nurture them and spend time with them and they get to know you over years, when they finally have had enough of their boss and they're finally done because they got passed up for that promotion or whatever it was, they don't go to Indeed, they don't go to Google, they don't go to these things. They call the person they've been building a relationship with for the last couple of years.
100%. Spot
So
on.
It's so cool. Like, that's the thing. Recruiting is marketing, people. Like,
It
that's a
really
shameless
is.
plug
It's
for me,
sales.
but recruiting is
Yeah.
marketing. Eric, anything he teaches you today, not only can you use it for business development, but you can use it for finding and keeping great people as well. So, so talk about this for a second. So we've got this long-term mindset that we need to have. And what I heard you say is the reason people have this love it or hate it really depends on how long they've been doing it, probably.
Pretty
You know,
much. Yeah.
you
And if you
probably
have a
love it early
process
on, and then
behind
you
it.
start
Yeah.
to hate it, and then you love it again later.
Exactly.
So what do we got
Exactly.
to do to get through this? What do we got to do to go, okay, outbound is just part of who we are. How do we make that transition?
I think that, and this is will be a little controversial probably, but I feel
That's
like you need
okay.
to not look at it as a sales channel. I know we want to get sales. I'm not oblivious to that,
Yeah.
but we should look at it as marketing. And I think
Mhm.
if more people looked at it as marketing, how many companies am I learning more about? Am I having good conversations? And by the way, you need a process to track all this information. And I'll give you an example. Let's say I talk to a great facility. Let's use the HVAC example. I talked to a great facility here in St. Louis, 100,000 square feet, tons of units that I would love to do work for. If I have a conversation with the decision maker and I ask, how are you currently handling your HVAC? Oh, we use ABC company across the street. How's that relationship going? Oh, it's good. We've been using them for 10 years. What do you like most about them? Oh, I like that they, their price is typically always fair. I don't feel like I'm getting screwed on any of the quotes that they give me. Well, what would you improve? Well, sometimes they're a little slow to respond and they've changed our technicians a lot. Okay, well, when do you typically review these contracts? Well, I review them every every March. Every year I look at our HVAC contract and look at options. If I did that for 2,000 companies, I knew who they're working with, what they liked about them, what would they improve when they review their contract. Like, that is the game. But
Uh,
a lot of people are just doing outbound with the sole sense of setting an appointment. I just want to set an appointment so I can sell them. Uncover data. It's marketing. Uncover
mm,
data, brand your company, collect information. And I feel like that's where a lot of people go wrong.
yeah. No, that makes sense. Now, you work in the IT space, right? Like you support MSPs, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
And we see a lot of companies that as they're growing, they go from this, my cousin supports the computers internally to, you know what? We need help. We need more. Uh, how do you be ready for that kind of company? So if let's say I'm an MSP and I'm thinking, hey, how do I sell to someone who doesn't have a budget for outsourced IT? How do you nurture that? I mean, do those people just take the calls the same way? What's your experience with that when you're going into an industry that maybe isn't used to this yet, or
Sure.
they don't
Yeah,
have a
that's
budget for it?
so typically how I segment the market is if you look at the 10% I was referring to, 3% are typically considering. They have offers on the table, they're going to pick a provider they're going to go to.
Okay.
7% is evaluating. They're starting that process, they're starting to look, research, ask for people. 30% is indifferent, 30% is lightly not interested, and 30% is definitely not interested,
Mhm.
assuming all the businesses are a fit. In that indifferent stage, they're indifferent for two reasons. They're not aware or they don't care, right? And
Okay.
so in this example, I would say if they have their cousin's friend doing the IT currently, it's typically because they're not aware of the consequences of that. So in my outreach, when I'm having conversations with these individuals, I'm more focused on education. I may be talking about trends that are upcoming that is going to impact their business, maybe from a cybersecurity standpoint or whatever it may be. And if I can be the person educating them and I can build that trust through education, they're inevitably going to come to that conclusion at some point. And
Mm,
ideally, you're going to move. I look at it as a spectrum. Like people are moving from left to right. If you run this out until infinity, everyone's going to switch their provider for some reason. These businesses don't stay around for 200 years,
yeah.
So you're only moving further to the right. And if I can actually get in front of these people in person and have a meeting with them, I'm going to move them further and farther along that spectrum. So I can do so much with with cold outreach and having these conversations over the phone. But that is where a lot of people say, I only want to meet with people who are looking to switch their provider right now. It's too late. You should have met with that person 7 months ago, so there's not 5 people sitting at the table that you're competing against.
Oof, that is a great point. That is a great point. Uh, well, let's shift gears for a second. Something I'm really passionate about, which is company culture. Uh, you have been a part of Abstrakt for 13 years. Did I get that right?
13 years, correct. Yep,
13 years. So 5, you've been president,
correct.
and you've been, I think you said 3 million and now 75 million. Like, that's significant growth.
Yeah,
Uh, company culture gets strained when you scale like that. I always tell people, the leaders that get you from 1 to 5 million aren't the same leaders that are going to get you from 5 to 10, aren't the
correct.
same that'll get you from 10 to 20, so on and so forth. So let's talk about culture for a second. For those people listening that are going, you know what? I've got this outbound thing figured out. I've got this part figured out where I've got leads coming in. I'm growing well, but gosh, I'm struggling with the people, the culture side of things. Like, what have you learned in your time over at Abstrakt as you go? Have you seen these milestones and these great moments of growth? What have you learned about company culture and how to use that as a differentiator in the marketplace?
Yeah, I think the number one thing is empowerment of your people. I think about mastery, autonomy, and purpose. And
Mm,
so, people want at the end of the day to be really good at something. They want to be in charge of their own destiny, and they want to be doing something that's worthwhile. So, to me, all motivation and culture really surrounds those 3 things to some extent. And people say, "Well, you could just pay people more money," but I've seen time and time again, that's not the number one thing for almost anybody, especially the people
true.
that say it's the number one thing for them. It's definitely not for them.
It's usually not,
Um,
yeah.
so from a culture perspective, I think the biggest thing as the leader of it, the advice I would give you is don't get too far away from the weeds, which is counterintuitive to almost everything you read.
Mm,
You know, there's a balance here of working on the business and in the business. But when you're hitting that point where culture's starting to like slip away from you a little bit, it's typically because you've removed yourself too far from where you were at before. And so I think you got to find that balance of how you're in your business. And I think it needs to be scheduled out. It's not haphazardly, I'm going to do this or that. It's, my calendar, I'm going to have an hour where I'm going to sit with my sales team and talk to them and listen to conversations like that. So that would be one piece of advice. The second thing would be really get tight on your hiring, your
mm.
leaders specifically. Of, I mean, do not we when you grow fast, what happens is you have empty seats and you need to get them filled ASAP. And resist the urge to put somebody in a position that you're not 100% sure about, because
Mm.
there's already a certain failure rate even when you're 100% sure. And the time it takes to put a bad leader in and then have to switch them and go through the whole process again is not worth it.
Well, not
Those
only
are the
that, all
decisions.
the stuff you have to unwind that that
Exactly.
leader put
You're
in
in a worse
place, so
spot. Yeah, you're in a worse spot.
oh, no, that's great. Yeah, focus in high quality leaders, make sure that the right culture fit, make sure that they're going to think like you do, uh, make sure that they've got that same mindset and philosophy you do. I mean, I think that's fantastic. And I love the shout out to Dan Pink there with Motivation
Yeah,
3.0.
yeah.
Um,
That really just it's so simple to remember, and it rings so true.
Yeah. And the thing that I always find with that mastery, autonomy, and purpose is people like, oh, I let them make their own decisions. I give them autonomy. Really? What happens when they don't do it your way? Oh, I'm on them like white on rice. Like, that is not autonomy. Uh,
Yeah,
and I think that people tend to warp that mastery, autonomy, purpose. Like, well, they're already a master plumber, but that's not what mastery is talking about. Oh,
for
I let
sure.
them. They're in a truck all day. They have all the autonomy they want. Then why do you got GPS tracking on their trucks? Like, that's not autonomy. But I think
Yeah,
for me, the one that I see is that purpose piece. That is the piece that so many companies just glaze. Oh, I give them purpose. They get a paycheck. No, it's called purpose, not a paycheck. And
right.
that's where they
They
get stuck on that. Yeah. So I think that
yeah,
was cool that
that's
you called that out. And that's the book Drive. If you guys
Yep.
haven't checked that one out, check out the book Drive. I think too many of us in the trades were stuck in motivation 2.0, carrots and sticks. Do this, you get
Yep.
a reward. Do this, and it's going to hurt. We get stuck there, and that's what
Yep.
really impacts the culture. Nobody today. I know this is a bold statement, and by the way, I don't pull punches either, Eric. So don't worry about being a contrarian voice here. But nobody today wants to be in a carrot and stick model. They just don't.
No.
There's just too many
Work on you. I
opportunities.
always
There's
like
too
to
many
ask
things
the
out
question,
there.
would it work on you? Wouldn't work on me. Like
Yeah.
I wouldn't. So why do that, with your team? And I think the one thing I'm thinking about as I'm talking about it is when it comes to mastery, autonomy, and purpose, there's certain situations where you can't bend on autonomy because you have this process, and maybe to protect the safety of your employees and everything else, it has to be followed just like that. So then you need to lean harder in the other areas, and it's something to constantly keep in mind.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of opportunity. I think one of the things that COVID did was it exposed to job seekers that they have options.
For sure.
And I saw this stat that said there are 5 million more cars on the road in the US now post COVID than there were pre COVID because everybody went to go be an Uber driver. No boss, get to set my own schedule. Tips are mine as long as I'm a good person. And they work crazy hours, but they love what they do. They have purpose. They get to meet people. They get to enjoy things. They get to enjoy time with their friends. I mean, I've seen so many Amazon drivers that drop off my stuff and they're having a conversation with a
Yeah,
friend. But
yeah,
that has opened things up for them. So they have options. And if you're in the roofing industry or any of the trades really, and you're paying anywhere in that $20 to $27 an hour range, there are options for people that are not in the industry. They can
right.
go work at an Amazon warehouse and make $25 an hour. They can go be an Uber driver and make $25 an hour. So there are options for them. Hey, one thing I want to get a little personal here for a second as we get ready to wrap up. You have done something that not a lot of people have done, internship to president in 8 years. You've seen the company go from 3 million to 75 million. I mean, amazing scale. And I know there are people listening right now going, "Oh, I can't wait for that for my business. I can't wait for that for my business." But one of the things that I see a lot, and I've been guilty of this myself, is get so caught up in that next big step that I forget to take care of myself. And there's either the pressure and the stress or even that horrible word burnout comes
Sure.
in. And I'm still learning to this day. There are some things that help me stay ahead of being burned out, making sure I'm sleeping well at night, making sure that I'm exercising, making sure I'm doing the things that are really important to me and my family. What are some of the things that you've learned? What strategies have you employed in this time that have helped you either get through those periods of burnout or just helped you rebalance?
Yeah, great question and very real. And I mean, I've had it probably every year that I've I've worked at this place, right? It's just something that it ebbs and flows naturally. So I think the first thing is a lot of times it's just a moment in time, and you have to keep it in perspective over the long haul. Because in front of your face it seems terrible, and if you scale back, take a step back, it's not as bad as it always seems. Second thing, I think it's important to define the emotion and not bucket it. So I think
Mm,
a lot of people say burnout, but burnout can be a couple things. It can be because you're not succeeding. It can be because you're physically tired because you're putting in too many hours. It can be you're stressed. And so I think instead of bucking it into this big topic, you really got to go deep and ask yourself the questions of like, why am I actually feeling this way? Is it because I'm physically tired? Is it because I'm mentally exhausted? And a lot of people might say it's all the above. What I typically find it is I'm lacking passion. Like
mm,
burnout comes to lack of passion because I think about times in my life where I've just been so passionate about something. I'll work 40 hours on the weekend to do something if I'm that passionate about it. And so um there's two so to me, sorry, long answer, but to me it's two things. It's I'm lacking passion typically. I'm lacking passion and physically I'm not taking care of myself. So I am not in the most incredible shape, but I find 30 minutes to work out every single day. if I didn't do it, I think I would be a crazy person. Like I have
Mm.
to get a sweat in. I'm not some bodybuilder. I'm not a marathon runner. Like I just want to sweat every day because I feel like if I do something hard, it makes everything else a little bit easier. So that's one thing. Second thing is I actually do a lot of yoga
Mm.
and meditation. And so those two things, they sounded really foo-foo to me at first, but, when I'm in my periods where I'm feeling great, I'm doing that consistently. I'm not gonna say I do it every day, but when I'm doing that, those definitely help. And on the lacking passion side, to me, knowledge is a big driver. So typically where I'm feeling burnout, I think I'm, like, facing the same challenges over and over, and I don't feel like I'm learning or growing or getting better. So a new book or a new podcast changes my outlook, reframes me, and re-energizes. That's just me specifically. Everybody's a
Yeah.
little different.
I think there's a lot of great things that you said in there. I mean, for me, I've learned because I've gone through periods of time where I don't open up the word every single day. And to me, that is my meditation, getting to spend some time there. And it just kind of sets the day for me. I've learned that just getting outside and getting moving doesn't have to be like I go to the gym and I do this strength training. But here's what I learned. I've always struggled with, I've got so many things to work on. Like I need to be at the computer. Well, here's what I've learned. I've got clients, I've got partners, and I've got employees that just need to bend my ear for 30 minutes. I can hop on a call while I'm walking around the neighborhood and getting that movement in, and I get to do double. It's kind of like
Yeah,
multitask. It feels great because I
that is
had
a
to make
great
that
one.
call anyways. So why
Yeah,
not do it while I'm getting some exercise in? And then when you said passion, that reminded me of an email I got 3 days ago. Now, regardless of when this comes out, 3 days ago, Alex Hermosi sent an email out that said the biggest issue that a business can deal with is when an owner loses passion for the business. When they fall out of love with the business, that's the biggest risk to any business. And so when you said that passion piece, I was
that's
like, oh my
yeah,
gosh, that was just, I mean, twice in 3 days. Yes, you have to be passionate about what you're doing. And if you're not passionate about it, it usually is something, that horrible employee, that toxic client, that there's something going on that if you just fix that, you'd all of a sudden go, ooh, I'm re-energized.
absolutely.
And so I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. Huge takeaways for the listeners that want to grow and scale. Tell us, Eric, how do we learn more about you? Like, how do we connect with you? I mean, so much knowledge and wisdom here, but also I'm sure there's some people that are like, hey, I want to know more about this Outbound or more about Abstrakt. And you've
Yeah.
got an offer for our listeners. So I'd love for you to cue that up as well.
Yeah, so I would say the easiest way is just to go to LinkedIn, Eric Watkins at Abstract Marketing Group, and send me a message. Connect with me, send me a message, and on the I'd be happy to talk about whatever, but probably what I can speak on best is sales development and help consult on how to grow your business and not to sell you on any services. If you want to talk about that, that's great. But I'd be happy to meet with whoever for 30 minutes and chat about that if they're interested in learning more about what I've seen work for others.
Awesome. And we'll have those links in the show notes. Eric, thank you so much for being on the show. I'm so excited about what you guys are doing there at Abstrakt. And I can't wait to see what the next 8 years is going to bring for the
Absolutely.
business now that you're at the helm of it. So thank you again for being on the show. I've got a page of notes. I'm sure listeners do as well. And yeah, we'll talk again soon.
Thank you, Ryan. Appreciate it.
Ryan Englin here. Thank you so much for listening to Titans of the Trades. If you're a titan in the construction, manufacturing, or skilled trades industry and would like to be a guest on my show, please visit podcast.corematters.com. If you found value in this interview, would you share this episode on social media? Just do a quick screenshot on your phone and share it with a friend or post it on social. And if you know someone that would be a great guest, tag them on social media to let them know about the show and include the hashtag Titans of the Trades. I love seeing your posts and guest suggestions. We are regularly putting out new episodes and content. To make sure you don't miss any episodes, click the subscribe button. Your thumbs up, ratings, and reviews go a long way to help promote the show and get me one step closer to solving the labor crisis facing the industry. Want to know more about how we're doing that? go to our website or follow me on LinkedIn. Thanks for listening.